Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. Now, granted, I probably should have made this last month, but we're getting to it now. This video is geared more towards players who used to play the game 6 months, a year and a half ago, that came back either for the 2 year anniversary or if it's your cup of tea, the Idolmaster collab. We're going to go over the most major differences between what the game used to be when maybe you played in like early 2022 versus what the game is now in late 2023. So I have curated a small list of the biggest kind of changes that have come with time, and we're going to be talking about them briefly and explaining what each of them are to the best of my capabilities. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so first off, the biggest change is that we have a new rarity of unit. We used to have 5 stars, so when you first started playing the game, you had Fire Shizu and Fire Benimaru and Water Soe. We now have 5-star EX units, and they are denominated by the special new background. So you see, like, the Masked Hero doesn't have these little extra icons down here. It doesn't have the weird textured background and everything. EX units are the new premium, new summonable units. So every time there's a brand new unit on a banner, they are going to be an EX character. So they're shown attack growth type EX versus we go down to one of the older characters and the hero is just attack growth type. So that's the first two easiest ways to spot the difference. Also, things to note about EX characters is that they are able to use 2 full alt gauges, and they are able to launch a double nuke essentially. So for this Wind Hinata, unleashes a single target wind physical attack for 490%. If you use 200% of the alt gauge, it goes up by 1.5 times. So that also shows the new power creep of EX characters, is that, in the olden days, if you had 2 alt bars, that means you had back-to-back alts. You would launch one and you'd still have another for the next turn. Now, if you have 2 alt bars, you are able to use both of them for additional power. And that is really what goes and puts the difference between doing, good damage with Space Millum versus doing exceptional damage with Space Violet, because Space Violet has the ability to launch an EX alt versus Space Millum with her just normal everyday alt. Alongside EX units, we do have a new currency. So every time you pull an EX character, they will start at level 80, just like every other 5-star unit. However, each EX unit is given these 5 initial shards right here, and that allows you to immediately awaken them and raise their rank to level 100. So, and they're all EX characters get this 5 free shards. So essentially, that means that the new baseline level for EX characters is 100, not level 80 like before. And then after level 100, that's when dupes actually start mattering. So, you've got baseline 100, 104, 108, 112, 116, 120. Level 120 is the new level cap for all units, not just EX characters, but even free to play and the old characters, and they take different currency for that. And to go alongside, needing these dupes, you will now receive their traits at still the same dupe level. So you still have 1 dupe of Violet, you're going to get her trait. It's just that she's going to be at level 104 versus an old 5-star character who is only at 84. But the shards are still the same. I'd say the dupes are the same. The shards, they need different shards now. They need rainbow, diamond shards, if you want to call them, actually, versus the older characters who need the rainbow shards. So if we go down to, we got to go all the way down here to, old Space Shinsha, who's not exactly old, but she needs still the rainbow colored shards to have, another dupe level. So they do have their own currency as well. All right, next up is forces. Now, if you've played any other gacha game where there are tags, categories, typings. That is essentially what they have added into the game. So if we click on this new Violet, she is on the Visions of Coleus team, Primal Demon team, and the Schemer team, versus this Mirai, who's on Pretty Sparkle, Goddess of Destiny, and Commander, versus this Aqua, who's on Adventurer, Goddess of Destiny, and Hyper Heart. So characters belong to now different team types. So if you play Dokkan, it's categories. If you play Legends, it's tags. If you play Grand Cross, it's races. Or like Seven Deadly Sins, commandments, goddesses, something like that. So it's along those lines. And the protectors, while also being differentiated by EX protectors versus old protectors, so everything that we talked about for the battle units applies to the protectors as well, they now lead a specific force. So this Velzard gives Warrior's Mind characters extra attack and defense, and increases damage done by physical characters to space enemies by 50%. Now that's pretty generic. This Diablo increases damage done by Fount of Wisdom characters to water enemies by 60%, and then gives Primal Demon and Fount of Wisdom characters 20% attack and defense. So he's giving additional buffs to certain forces that characters belong to against a very specific type of enemy. So let's say this this Hinata is on Fount of Wisdom. She is a wind character, all right? So if you're fighting a water character, you already have type advantage, which means you'll do additional damage to that enemy. If you pair her with Diablo, who is giving Fount of Wisdom characters 60% extra damage versus water, that means Hinata is now going to hit even harder because she is on the Fount of Wisdom. She's facing a water character, which means that she can activate this extra 60% damage buff. And because she's on Fount of Wisdom, she's also getting an extra 20% attack and defense. And this applies to all the EX protectors now. This Rimuru, Adventurer Force to Earth enemies. This Frey, World of Fantasy against Fire. So they're still built for specific elemental types, but it's no longer limited to only space units get buffs. Only Earth units get buffs, because there could be a number of units that are on the Visions of Coleus team, and there are a number of different units on the Visions of Coleus. It's this team. So while she is technically going to give the biggest damage buff to space units, because they are on the team, they have type advantage against the wind enemy, still, a light element Blanc and a dark element Rimuru, because they're fighting a wind enemy, they will still get that 60% damage buff, but they won't hit as hard as, having both the 60% and type advantage. So building teams now is a little bit more specific, but also more broad at the same time. And every battle character has been given forces, all the way down to the stupid 4 stars. So this Xion right here, she's only on Ogre's Pride. Okay, cool. But let's see, this Water Soe, he's on Ogre's Pride, Tempest Elite, and Visions of Coleus. So if you were to take him against a water enemy, or a wind enemy, technically he has type disadvantage. But he would still get that 60% damage buff because he's on the team fighting a wind enemy. So, alright, next up are the free-to-play units that you get every month for every meta. They now give us 2 free-to-play units. They give us a 5-star free-to-play character, so not a 4-star anymore, because, we used to get, Geld and Water Rimuru and Frey and Misery. But now they are 5-star units starting out, and they go up to the level cap of 120 for free just by playing and completing missions. Right now we're in the Idolmaster collab. We got free-to-play Tsubasa. She's at level 120. She's light magic on Pretty Sparkle World of Fantasy and the Flashback Emissary Beatdown. She's a free-to-play battle unit. And alongside that, we get a free 4-star protector unit alongside the summonable unit, and they generally do kind of the same thing and kind of not. So right now, alongside that free-to-play Tsubasa, we also got this free-to-play Idol Chloe, Admirer Idol. So every meta, you'll be able to farm up a free-to-play protector and a free-to-play battle unit. Both of them have the ability to go to level 120 for free without having to spend any crystals to summon for anything. Next up are charms. So charms are the new kind of a gear or equipment for protectors. So if you go into your forge, you have your normal equipment and gear, you have this tab for charms, and it'll list a great different number of charms, and they all do different things based on, what kind of charm they are, what level they are. This charm gives us AoE attack by 8%. Meanwhile, let's see. This charm gives us more magicules if we're farming the level up quest by 20%. And literally everything in between. This is a heal charm, 24% for the lowest ally with the lowest HP. They're wide ranging, they have many different things, and they give protectors additional basic stats, attack, defense, and HP. So they are just more gear with secondary effects that you could put only on protectors, but you level them up, you awaken them, you can give them different things, you can engrave them or charm resonate them to certain protectors. That's why these ones are glowing, because I've resonated, quote unquote, them, engraved them to certain protectors. But it is just more gear and more power for your protector units. Next up is Valor Cup. This came out right about at the first anniversary, so a year ago from today almost. This is essentially PvP, but against other players' bots. So you're not doing live PvP versus a real person. Like, you'll never fight me in a live setting where I'm making moves and you're making moves. You may find me, but you're going to be playing against my AI and the team that I have set. But this gives you 5 crystals every time you complete 5 fights. And then at the end of the season, which there's 2 days left in the season as of recording, you get rewards based on your current total ranking. And your ranking can start, all the way down at whatever it starts at, Bronze 3, and the more battles you play, the higher you go. You can go up to Legend. You can get 300 crystals a month just from doing this, alongside the 5 crystals from every 5 fights. And this resets monthly. So in a month, I'll get reset down to like Diamond 5 or something like that, and I'll have to climb back up. And then at the end of next month, I'll get another 300 crystals. There are also weekly rankings that give you coins and weekly defense based on how many battles you lose, and you can get up to 120 coins. So this is just another form of gameplay to kind of test teams. Normal unit traits do not work, but now all units have a Valor trait and a normal trait, which are very, very different. So Hinata right here, her Valor trait is when you send 2 orbs, you nerf the green orbs damage by the opposite team for 1 turn. And then her actual trait is protection gauge every 2 turns. This won't apply, but this Valor trait certainly will. So it's a new gameplay mode. AI PvP against bots. It's not the most interesting thing, but it's something to do, and it does give crystal rewards the more you play it. Alright, next, there's this new button for the world map, and it shows a number of different places which you may or may not recognize. Central Tempest, that's always been there. The Riverfront was added it was like around the half anniversary originally, so 2022, like April, May, somewhere around there. It's just another building area for you. It's nice and pretty. It does really nothing for you, which I have literally done nothing with it. But there are also other places to go to now. So world map, the Kingdom of Ingracia has a bunch of different things to do. It has Valor Cup. This is where you can, once you unlock it, you can start obtaining charms, which we talked about earlier. And if we go into here, there are other characters you can speak to. There are like side missions that you can take part in. You can talk to the people, do some fetch quests, or do some random little battle, and it'll give you stuff. It also unlocks the trade functionality, which sometimes is good, sometimes is not. But you can acquire these little trade pendants, and then you can trade. I'm trading right now 8 potions for a 3-star charm, and I'm doing them 10 times. That's why it's going to take like 80 hours to finish this. But I'll get 10 free charms out of it at the cost of 80 potions, which I have a stockpile of. So sometimes the rewards in here are good. A lot of the times they're not, but it is what it is. But those are the new building areas. We just had the brand new bamboo forest area open up, which does take a certain amount of population to get to. But it does add additional benefits, like increasing the amount of Stamina you get from the hot spring. It increases some output for some other buildings in Tempest. It also allows you to the resonance or the engraving for charms if you have them unlocked and you get high enough. So we have many, many different places where you can build buildings now. All right, next up, and this will not apply to everybody, but I am not playing on an emulator. I'm not on BlueStacks, I'm not on LD Player. I am on the Google Play Games beta application this is a PC app for Google Play specifically. Now, this is not available in every country. Please keep that in mind. So when people always ask, what emulator am I on? I'm not. I'm on the Google Play Games beta app. And if you cannot download it in your country, you're SOL, because I'm not in charge of Google, okay? I don't roll this out to all the countries. But this is how I can play on. It is quite a smoother experience than trying to play on an emulator. There are still some hiccups here and there, but overall, I do enjoy playing it on this application because it's easier for me to record without numerous crashes or slowdowns. So if it's available to you and you want to play it on PC, by all means, you can do that. And if you have an Android phone and you download your game onto PC, you can switch between the PC app and your phone app seamlessly. You don't have to uninstall and reinstall and all that bullshit. You can just be like, I want to play on my phone now. I want to play on PC now. This only applies if you have an Android phone, please. And if you have access to the Google Play Games beta app for PC. Stipulations, but the possibility does exist. And finally, the last thing I really have to talk about are skill fusions. So if you've played Dokkan, this is their very crappy equivalent to EZAs, Extreme Z Awakenings. It's their attempt to make old units a little bit better now that they've kind of aged out. So this Diablo right here, he got a skill fusion. He was the very first summonable battle unit, and you can tell behind, this skill does not have this fancy little background now. All right. The first thing to note is that in order to skill fuse an old 5-star character, they need to be level 100. And it's a terrible requirement. I hate it, and I've always been very vocal about hating it because they're old units. Why do you have to get them to level 100 to make them slightly better? Because none of these skill fusions are like super game-changing, right? It doesn't make them immediately better than any of the new premium summonable units. It makes them a little bit more usable. But like this Lumi right here, let's check it out. So we can fuse this skill. And right now at level 10, it costs 40 points, and it lowers an enemy alt gauge by 10% and increases her own gauge by 25%. If you skill fuse it using these materials, it becomes a 25-point skill, which goes down to 15 cost, still lowers her alt gauge, and then gives her a 40% alt gauge increase instead of 25 when it's fully capped out. So some skills do get, quite a bit better. 15 points, 10%, 40%. The Diablo went from attack buff and 10% dark resistance down to an attack buff and 50% dark resistance down. It's not applied to every unit. Some units haven't gotten them yet. They're kind of rolling them out in batches. But you do need to have them at level fucking 100 before you can even attempt it. So that is a bad thing, but there are units that do have skill fusions that are fairly good, that get a little bit better. So let's see, where is the Fire Violet? Fire Violet, she's level 120. I could do her skill fusion, but I don't really want to, because it doesn't really make too much of a difference. So she gets an extra 10% attack right here, and that's about it. And it still goes down to a 15 cost. So some of them are not that impressive. Some of them are pretty good. But skill fusions are certainly a thing now. But those are the biggest major changes from a player coming in from last year to now that you should be aware of. Mainly it's about the EX characters and how they work, and then the forces that you get from your protectors, your new EX protectors. Those are the biggest changes. If there's something else that you think new players should be aware of, please put it down in the comments. But otherwise, that's it from me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.